If you have found yourself outside recently, sweating through your clothes and praying that you can get back inside to the air conditioner, you are not alone. Here in Oklahoma, we have hit the dog days of summer, and it is hot and it is humid, and quite frankly, it's pretty miserable outside right now. You walk outside and you start sweating almost immediately. And it got me thinking about the challenges that we have as preppers to figure out how do we stay cool with no power. So today's video, we are going to talk about some strategies that you can use to make sure that you are ready to keep your family safe and cool even if the power goes out. Welcome back to Preparedness. My name is Laura. We talk about self-sufficiency and prepping on this channel, and today we are talking about something near and dear to my heart, which is AC. It is the ability to stay cool when things are hot outside. I really struggle with heat regulation. I hate being hot, and so air conditioning is honestly probably the best invention that I can think of that we have in today's modern world. And I hate to think about what we would do without it. But I also recognize that as a prepper, I have to think about, hey, how do we survive without the regular modern conveniences that we're used to, like air conditioner? If we go back not even that many generations, our families were used to living without AC. They knew how to keep themselves cool even in hot weather, and they were able to kind of stay safe and stay healthy regardless of what the weather was doing. But I would argue that we've kind of lost that skill over the last few years. And so what we want to do is just talk through some strategies for how you can stay cool even if the ACs are out. So the first step in staying cool is honestly just to regulate your body temperature. And again, we have kind of gotten out of the habit of knowing how to do this in our modern AC kind of world. But you want to keep that core temperature as regulated as possible in a hot situation so that you don't end up with something like heat stroke or heat exhaustion. Really, to be able to do that, you want to think about things like battery operated fans. So this is a great battery operated fan I have. We keep extra batteries for it. This one also can run off of power. So if we have a solar generator or a power generator, battery backup, I can also run it off of that. Battery operated fans are a great add to your emergency kit because they just help with airflow. If you've ever been in a hot room, you know that if you turn on a ceiling fan, it can really help cool things down. Even though the air itself is not really cooler, your body perceives it as a little bit cooler when you get that breeze across your skin. So having battery operated fans is absolutely an important add to your hot weather emergency kit. You can also order cooling neck wraps or towels. Cooling neck towels are great because you can get them wet and then just place them around your neck. And again, it helps drop that core temperature a little bit. So having one of those on hand can also be a great add, especially if you're going to be outside some. You may also want to consider something like just a simple spray bottle with water in it. Kind of spraying yourself with water and then blowing air across it really helps keep your body temperature cool. It's why your body sweats. So if you are someplace that's dry, like we used to live in Colorado, a squirt bottle with just some water in it can be really important to kind of help you get that kind of liquid on your skin to then blow air across and cool you down. Here in Oklahoma, not as useful because let's face it, it's already freaking humid. And so I'm already sweating and I already have that water on my skin. So depending on where you live, that may not be a great option. But if you are in a dry climate, absolutely a spray bottle with some water in it can be incredibly important to help keep that core body temperature down. Another thing to consider are just frozen gel packs. These, again, we obviously keep in our freezer for medical emergencies to treat bruises and things like that, but they are also a great addition for your summer cooling kit. So obviously if you have one of these and it's cool, you can put your wrist on it. You can again kind of start cooling down that core body temperature. Now, obviously if you don't have power for an extended period of time, these may not stay cool over the long term, but they are still a good addition to have in your kit. You can also get the ice packs that you can just pop and break and then they get cold automatically. That is another great thing to have on hand. That's for more severe kind of heat emergencies. If someone is really starting to struggle with the temperatures, having an ice pack can really help lower core temperatures and be really important for kind of just maintaining that overall body temperature. The other thing to think about from a just heating and cooling perspective is how to cool down your house. So back in the olden days, right, they opened up windows to get cross ventilation, particularly at night. Then in the daytime, they'd close everything down, cover up the windows, put some blackout shades up there to really keep the heat from coming in. So when you're thinking about long-term emergencies or things where you may have multiple days where you do not have access to AC and it's harder to control your temperature in your house, you're going to want to think about things like closing up curtains, closing up drapes, maybe buying some blackout curtains to keep that sun out during the day so that you can try to regulate the temperature inside. As soon as it starts cooling down at all, you can open up windows, particularly if they are across from each other. You get that breeze coming in and it can help cool down your residence and keep kind of temperatures at a more comfortable-ish kind of temperature. So that is another thing to consider as you are looking at your power outages. I know those all sound pretty basic, but it is a amazing how far those kinds of things can go to help kind of regulate body temperature, even when you don't have your normal power, your normal AC, etc. So think about a few of those that you might be able to add to your emergency blackout kit. Hopefully you already have a power out kit in your house. And if not, don't worry, we're going to talk about some power out options next week. But those power out kits can really benefit from ice packs, from spray bottles, from, neck cooling wraps, things like that. So consider getting a few of those things and adding them to your kit. The second piece to really kind of making sure that you can stay healthy in a very hot situation is just staying hydrated. Again, it sounds very basic, but we a lot of times forget to just drink water when it's hot outside. And if you are someone who doesn't love water or doesn't like water, you're really going to want to monitor how much you take in. Hopefully you already have water bottles stored for part of your water prepping. And so having those on hand can be a great addition, again, to help you regulate your body temperature if you don't have power. Thinking about how many ounces you consume, taking into account that if you are sweating a lot, you're going to need to up your normal intake. It also may be really important to get something like Liquid IV or some other electrolyte. It doesn't matter what kind you use. There's tons of them out there. You can even make your own electrolyte mixture with salt and sugar. There's tons of recipes online that you can just make that yourself. The reason that we want to do that when we are sweating a lot is because as we're sweating, a lot of those nutrients can be sweated out of our body. And so you want to replace things with electrolytes to, again, help make sure that you are managing the heat and managing your body's response to that heat. If you are someone who struggles with, again, drinking enough water, you may want to set a timer just to remind yourself to drink in a power out situation. Again, you'll be sweating more than normal and you will need to consume more than normal. So having a reminder set can just help you remember to drink water or drink some sort of electrolyte beverage. Another thing to think about is just storing 1-gallon water jugs in your freezer. These serve a couple of different purposes. First of all, if the power goes out, you can pull those out. You can put them in your fridge to help keep your fridge cool. But then as those melt, you also have access to cooler water. Again, having access to cool water could be important if someone is experiencing kind of a heat-related illness or kind of stressor on their body. So having some water that is frozen is really important as you are looking at kind of that summer prepping piece, because then you have water that will thaw over time but will still be cold, even if for some reason your fridge isn't running. And so that can be another great add to your kit. The third piece of prepping for an AC down kind of scenario, as I'm going to call it, is just understanding what to watch for in terms of heat illness. So this could be a heat stroke or heat exhaustion. This is not just about being comfortable, which obviously I'm a big fan of, but this is honestly about staying safe and about staying healthy. If you've ever watched the news during a heat wave or a power outage, you will know that a lot of times we lose people to heat exhaustion and heat stroke during these events because they don't know how to keep their bodies cool and they don't necessarily know the signs to watch for to make sure that they are able to get medical treatment or care before it is too late for them to be saved. So as we think about this summer prepping piece, we want to also just train ourselves and our families to know what to look for in terms of a heat stroke. Now, again, not a medical professional, but do a little bit of research, get a manual, learn what to look for. It can be hot, dry, red skin. So again, when we see people get really flushed, that is kind of an initial indicator that your blood is really hot and is really working hard and your body is trying to cool itself down and is having a challenge doing it. You also want to look for things like a rapid pulse. If someone starts getting confused or dizzy, that is another sign that they may be having a heat-related illness. Or if they get nauseous and start vomiting, that is a sure sign that that heat exhaustion has really kind of gone into that next stage and you are really starting to now need to look for medical attention. Hopefully, if you are doing all the steps to keep your body core temperature down, you have those fans going, you have maybe some ice water, you have electrolytes and water to drink. Hopefully, you'll never get to this stage. But if you start getting to that stage, then you need to immediately call 911, go to the doctor. You need to seek medical attention, right? Because at that point, we are starting to get into those dangerous things that can really be life-threatening, particularly for those who are maybe younger, have any pre-existing health conditions, or those in your family that may be a little bit older. We really want to not mess around with heat-related illness because that is definitely not a good thing to mess with when you don't have power. And the last thing I'll just remind you from a kind of heat perspective is don't forget about your pets. If you are hot, they are probably hot. So having extra water for them, making sure they have a cool place to go in the shade, that they're not locked up in a building that is getting hotter and hotter, but that they have the ability to move around and again, get that kind of airflow. Don't forget about your pets because they may be getting hot in these kind of scenarios too. If you're feeling super brave and you want to test your skills, I would encourage you to just practice with turning off your power, turning off your AC for a couple of hours. Know what it feels like in your house. Learn what windows you need to open. Learn what fans you can use to kind of keep your space cool. Learn what side of the porch works the best for staying cool outside at different times of the day. I know that sounds silly, but we pay attention to that here in Oklahoma because as the sun sun moves, right, we change which side of the porch that we are sitting on. So learn your local area, learn where you need to go to kind of manage that heat the best way that you can without electricity. So turn that power off, get brave, try all the stuff, figure out what works for you and your family so that you know that if an emergency comes, you are ready to kind of survive it, and not only survive, but hopefully not be completely miserable. Because let's face it, we all know that power outages in the summer are horrible and definitely not something that we want to have happen. But having the confidence that we have the things on hand to keep our family safe and comfortable can be a lot of stress let off of our shoulders. And so really think through that. If you are struggling, just download the checklist that I've included here. It has a list of all of the things that we kind of talked about today to really help you think through what you would do in a summer emergency with no power. And I'd love to know in the comments, what is one thing you do to stay cool in the summer that maybe we didn't talk about on today's video? As always, my friends, let's be prepared and not scared.